You don't just lose mobility with age, you lose it when the wrong foods quietly inflame your joints, every single day. And if you're over 60, one common food combo may be making your knees stiffer, your grip weaker, and your steps less stable. It's not just sugar, it's not just dairy, it's what happens when you combine them. The science, shockingly clear. The fix, incredibly simple. Let's walk through what's really happening inside your body and how to take back your strength starting now. After 60, joint pain feels like it just happens. You wake up stiffer, stairs become harder. You chalk it up to getting older. But in my 25 years with seniors, I've seen something deeper. A food pairing that's quietly triggering immune overreactions in the joints, even in those eating healthy. We'll explore the science behind this combo, reveal how it silently escalates inflammation, and walk through a simple timing tweak that's helped many of my patients, like Frank, move with ease again. And of course, talk to your doctor before changing your diet. 1. The sticky fuse, sugar plus dairy equals joint rust. You know that old cast iron pan in your kitchen? The one that's been through decades of cooking. No matter how hard you scrub, there's always some sticky buildup that never quite comes off. Now, imagine that happening inside your joints. That's what forms when sugar and dairy are eaten together, especially after 60. Your body creates something called AGEs, advanced glycation end products. But you can just think of them as joint rust, sticky compounds that harden your cartilage, inflame your tissues, and make your knees whisper, "Not today." Now, here's where it gets unfair. Younger bodies, they clear these ages pretty well. But after 60, your natural cleanup crew slows down by nearly 40%. That rust, it doesn't leave. It stacks, and it hurts. A 2021 meta-analysis found something shocking. Seniors with high sugar diets saw up to a 60% spike in IL-6, a major inflammatory marker tied to joint damage. But the worst inflammation? It showed up when sugar and dairy were combined in the same meal. Just ask Frank, 73. Every morning, fruit yogurt, honey, granola. It looked healthy, felt light. But by mid-morning, he could barely bend to tie his shoes. For years, he blamed his knees. Turned out it was his breakfast. We swapped in plain Greek yogurt, added fiber from chia, and ditched the added sugar. 3 weeks later, he was walking the park trail again. No pain, no brace. You don't have to give up dairy, but how and when you eat it. That could be the difference between slow stiffness and daily strength. And here's what Frank didn't realize. That parfait wasn't just feeding inflammation in his knees, it was flipping a switch inside his immune system, one that was never meant to stay on. And once that switch gets stuck, the pain doesn't just stay in your joints, it echoes through your whole system. 2. Your immune system's overreaction button. Imagine your immune system like a smoke alarm, built to protect you, built to detect danger. But what happens when that alarm gets older and starts going off at the smallest puff of steam? That's what happens inside your body after 60. Your immune system becomes jumpy. And when it detects that sticky rust from sugar-dairy combos, it hits the panic button. The scientific name for this? It's called the NLRP3 inflammasome, a tiny command center in your immune cells. Its job is to respond to threats, but in seniors, that response becomes overactive. What once was a gentle warning turns into a full-scale inflammation spiral. Your joints swell, your energy drops. And the worst part, it doesn't shut off easily. A 2024 study from the Rush Memory and Aging Project found that seniors with the highest sugar intake had 2.1 times higher risk of inflammatory disease. Not just sore knees, but brain fog, fatigue, and blood markers like IL-1 beta and IL-18 going through the roof, all linked to immune overactivation. Frank had no idea this was happening. All he knew was that some mornings, tying his shoes made him wince. His doctor said, "It's arthritis." But when we tracked his food, the pattern was clear. Sweet dairy snacks, yogurt cups, milkshakes, flavored lattes were setting off his body's internal alarms. Have you ever felt more sore or stiff after what you thought was a healthy snack? Maybe a smoothie, a coffee drink? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Because sometimes your food memory holds more clues than any test result. So, we made a single shift. No more sugar dairy together. Just that. Within 2 weeks, his flare-ups cut in half. And here's the surprising part. He didn't feel deprived. He felt relief. Because when your immune system finally calms down, it's like your body exhales for the first time in years. But the story doesn't end in the joints. What happens next starts in your gut. 3. The gut barrier that quietly breaks. We often think of joint pain as something mechanical, a worn-out hinge, or too many birthdays. But what if the pain isn't starting in your knees at all? What if it's starting in your gut? See, your gut isn't just for digestion. It's your first line of defense, a protective wall. It decides what gets into your bloodstream and what stays out. But sugar, especially when mixed with dairy, that wall starts to crack, tiny openings form, and things that were never supposed to leave your gut, bacteria, toxins, food particles, leak into your blood. And when that happens, your immune system goes on high alert, and the inflammation doesn't stay in your stomach. It travels right to your joints. It's called leaky gut. And for seniors, it's far more common than most people think. Picture your gut like a garden hose. When the hose is strong, water flows right where it should. But when tiny holes form, the pressure weakens and the water sprays everywhere. Your body reacts the same way. The leak may start small, but the damage echoes outward. Back in 2015, a study on seniors showed that sweetened dairy, things like smoothies, fruit yogurts, or milk-based coffee drinks, dramatically increase gut permeability. That means more leaks and more pain in places that have nothing to do with digestion. Helen, 69, was doing everything right. She started each morning with a fruit smoothie, bananas, yogurt, honey. But by lunchtime, her knees throbbed. She thought it was aging. Turns out, it was breakfast. We swapped it for a savory plate, 2 eggs, a slice of avocado, green tea. Within days, the swelling backed off. She called it relief from the inside out. Most people think calcium protects their joints, but often it's your gut doing the heavy lifting. And what sugar and dairy do to your gut is nothing compared to what they do to your hormones. 4. Insulin, cortisol, and the double hit to your joints. Here's the part most seniors never hear about. And it's not your fault, because this rarely gets explained at checkups. But after 60, your body doesn't just digest food differently, it reacts to it differently, especially when it comes to 2 key hormones, insulin and cortisol. Let's start with insulin. It's like the key that unlocks your cells, letting sugar in for energy. But as we age, our cells stop responding to that key. It's called insulin resistance, and by 70, it can reduce sensitivity by over 50%. So, what happens when you eat sugar? More insulin gets released, but your body doesn't listen to it. The sugar lingers in your bloodstream, it feeds inflammation, and it settles into your joints like fuel on a slow-burning fire. Now, add dairy to that, especially when sweetened. It's been shown to spike insulin even higher, even if it's not full of sugar. So, when the two are combined, it's like pressing the gas and the brakes at the same time. Now, enter cortisol, your stress hormone. It's meant to rise in short bursts, but with chronic inflammation, like what we've just described, cortisol stays elevated, and when that happens, you feel wired but tired. Your sleep gets lighter, your muscles get weaker, and your belly holds on to weight that used to be easy to lose. Frank didn't know any of this. He just knew that after dessert nights, especially the ones with cheesecake and ice cream, he'd wake up the next morning swollen and exhausted. Sometimes his hands wouldn't even close all the way. So, we tried something simple, a 3-hour buffer. If he had dairy, he skipped dessert. If he had dessert, no dairy for the rest of the evening. That one change reset everything. He started sleeping deeper, waking up clearer, and the morning stiffness cut in half. Because when insulin calm and cortisol cools down, your body starts to remember what balance feels like. But the damage these two hormones cause doesn't just affect you, it affects the people who love you most. So maybe it's not just aging. Maybe it's not your knees failing you, but your food silently working against you. And that means something important. Because if food can trigger this much damage, then food can also help you heal. You don't have to change everything, just one pairing, just one habit. And sometimes, that's enough to tell your body, I hear you. And if you've ever hidden your pain so your kids wouldn't worry, if you've ever said I'm fine when you weren't, maybe this is the moment to take your strength back, not just for you, but for the people who still look to you as the strong one. If this video opened a small door for you today, leave a comment and tell me what you're walking away with. What shift are you ready to try? And until next time, be kind to your joints, be kind to your gut, and above all, be kind to you.